This is Behind the Headlines, with behind-the-scenes analysis on issues affecting Pennsylvanians, sponsored by the Susquehanna Valley Center for Public Policy. Now, here's your host.
Hi, welcome to a new edition of Behind the Headlines. I'm Maura Donley. Our usual host, Charlie Greenewalt, is on assignment, but I'm very pleased today to have Jere Strittmatter with us.
Hi, Maura.
Jere is an associate of the Susquehanna Valley Center for Public Policy. Thanks for pinch hitting today.
Well, I'm glad to be here. I always get to learn a lot. I know Ken's going to better inform me.
Right, and speaking of Ken, our guest today is Ken Mash from APSCUF. And we always love telling everybody what APSCUF stands for. so it is the Association of Pennsylvania State Colleges and Universities Faculties, correct?
That's great.
Oh, goodness. I'm so glad we're over that hurdle. Let's go on to what's new. You're dealing with some big changes as we head into budget season. There's a new chancellor at the state system. Do you want to tell us a little bit about him and
Sure.
what you think?
So first, Maura, Jere, it's great to be here and see you both again. Yes, so the state system has a new chancellor. It's the person who was the interim chancellor. So Chris Ferrantino. Chris, he was the president of Westchester University before becoming the interim chancellor. He retired from his position as president, and once he became interim, I think he got really into it. He wasn't expecting to apply even for the job, but I think it appealed to him. And I've known him for a long time. Of course, we don't always agree. We're on different sides of some issues, and we've been on the opposite side of the negotiating table too.
Very
but
normal.
I found him always to be someone who listens, who processes when you've got questions, and takes you seriously, and sometimes even adjusts what he's doing based on what you're saying. So, I'm looking forward to working with him to serve the students of Pennsylvania.
That sounds great.
The students are really lucky, to get a person like that. Mm-hmm. In fact, all students should be going, to our state system, for sure. And for the viewers out there, to make sure that you hear this very well here, there's a trivia question, and the trivia question is, what do you know that hasn't increased its prices for 7 years and probably not going to increase their price for an 8th year? Ken, what is the answer to that?
The answer is the tuition at the state system of higher education.
How about that?
And that's we're very fortunate that we've had really bipartisan support for the state system over the last 8 years, and we've seen we were at the very bottom as far as state funding, and we're not at the middle yet even, but we have seen a steady increase over those last few years, and the legislature and the governors have made an investment, and the state system board and the chancellor have responded by saying we want to get the best deal for Pennsylvania's students and their families.
And they're getting it. 8 years is amazing.
Yeah. That doesn't mean the prices haven't gone, or expenses haven't gone up.
Oh, of course
right?
not. That's what's great for the students, and compared to all the other colleges and universities, it's just it's wonderful. So thank you very much.
Yeah, no, I think it's great, but it's again, it's a matter of the support that we're getting. And again, I want to reemphasize that's bipartisan support for our system of higher education. And and we serve the working class in Pennsylvania. That's who comes to our universities. So it's an investment in Pennsylvania,
and it keeps our economy growing.
Absolutely.
Because we need people here that are well educated, and you're doing it.
And we have to find ways to attract not just more people from within Pennsylvania, because I think that there are opportunities for us to increase enrollment from the existing base, but also look to some adults who have some credits in the state system already. They've gone to our schools, but to get them back to finish up their degrees. But I think for the good of the Commonwealth, we also need to start looking at ways that we can attract students from out of state to come. Because long-term, employers are going to need an educated workforce. And right now, we don't have enough people meeting that need. And also, of course, it's to the benefit of the entire Commonwealth if we bring in people who will be working and paying taxes, because I think, as you know well, Jerry, the average age of Pennsylvania is keep on going up, and we've seen too many people leave.
You know, we don't tax annuities or pensions. You know, it sort of attracts people from these high tax states.
Yeah. So we need to find ways to encourage people to move to Pennsylvania.
Well, how is this budget season looking for you?
So the state system, as you alluded to, has asked for a 6.5% increase to its allocation, which would, it's like a $41 million increase overall, but it's that increase again would be dedicated to keeping tuition where it is. And to tell you the truth, it's not an even thing. It doesn't, even with that additional money, it doesn't make up for the increases in expenses and everything else that are taking place. And boy, our members just got notice that there's going to be a big increase in healthcare costs for all the employees at the state system. So, it doesn't make up for that, which means that we still have to, we've been undergoing budget cuts and not hiring people and doing what we need to.
Well, for all the alumni that are watching across the state, make sure you contribute greatly now.
Absolutely. It's a difficult balancing act for our presidents. It means a lot of hard work, and it has been for years for our faculty to pick up the pieces as people have retired and to do more and more. But I don't think it's a good long-term plan, so we're going to have to find a solution for that along the way. But nevertheless, we want to keep it the best deal we possibly can for the students.
So in the past, we've had some great conversations about Pennsylvania Promise. Can you remind our viewers what that is and give us an update on that?
Yeah, so we, Senator Pittman has gotten some big money for scholarships in Pennsylvania. These are dedicated for, where there's high demand for certain majors to go into certain occupations like teaching and nursing
Yeah.
and that, and also some money to try and attract out-of-state students to come. And, and we're all for those scholarships, and we're really grateful that he brought it up, and the governor went along, and the House went along too. But we just think when it comes when it comes down to investment, and when you start looking at what other states, our neighboring states, are doing, they're getting serious about saying no tuition, right? Like, we're going to cover the cost of tuition, period.
Wait, zero?
For students.
No dollars?
$0.
Wow.
Like, and it comes in form of some scholarship or another. But so that makes it hard for us to compete. And we have several universities that are on the border with other states. So it makes it very difficult for us to compete. But on top of that, the bang for the buck for the Commonwealth is amazing. Like, this is truly an investment. So when students can get out of college and they have, even with that, they wouldn't have zero debt because there's, housing costs and other fees that are attached. But if they can come out and not be having to give money to banks, but instead spending that money on goods and services and buying houses, and, this would be for the good of everyone that's involved. So, we want to serve our students and serve them well, and we think that investing in the students is the way to go.
Well, definitely, and by being in the Commonwealth and having so many, regions, you're close, you're close to home, and the other big thing is all the alumni that are here, that are business owners, able to employ people, internships, that are available, to all your students.
Right.
It makes it very livable and also very workable to have a great 4 years and a great future, right?
Yeah, for most of our universities, they're and they're in the top 5, and most are in the biggest employer in the county where they're located. So it's good for the local community, it's good for the state economy, and ultimately I think it's good for the national economy too.
There was a consolidation recently out in the western part of the state. How's that going? I
Yeah.
think it's been a couple of years.
Yeah, it's been a couple of years,
Yeah.
so we consolidated 6 universities
Yeah.
into 2 universities, and I'm not going to lie, there's been some
Growing
problems
pains or
along the way.
downsizing pains, yeah.
Well, there's been, it's not just the downsizing pains. It's just, you can imagine you're taking 3 organizations and turning them into 1 organization, and that's not just just do that,
Yeah.
because they're separate institutions.
Mm-hmm.
So they have separate curriculums, they have separate
And long-time histories.
everything.
Sports teams.
Yeah, sports
Yeah.
teams, but
Yeah.
even, different computing systems and things like that. So you can't just say, now, tomorrow, merge and expect that everything
Yeah.
is going to go well. And it didn't, and there were some growing pains there. Penn West is the Pennsylvania Western
Mm-hmm.
University. That's the university you were referring to. They had to come together. Their enrollment did go down, even after the consolidation combined. But I know that our faculty there are doing everything they possibly can. And I think they're working with their administration, and they're all on the same page about making that the best institution, because we can't have a situation where there's no universities in the western part of the state, right? Like, that just can't be. So this has got to work. And of course, we have Indiana and Slippery Rock too. That's not part of the consolidation, but even so, we're talking about Edinburgh, we're talking about California, Pennsylvania, and Clarion. And those are small, if those universities went away, that would be a big problem, not just for the university, but for the entire community.
Oh, they can't, because we're going to be the center of the world, with the energy being unleashed now, and the jobs coming back. It's a great time for the system, for the students,
Right.
going there. And as I said when we got started, who else has an increase of price in 7 years and going on 8 years now?
Right.
No one. And so I look forward to really bright days, not only the West, but the Northeast, the Southeast, and
Right.
all across the Commonwealth.
And in the Eastern part, we have Commonwealth University
Yeah.
too, which the same sort of thing has gone on. I think Bloomsburg, which was part of that, was a little bit better shape, and they were able to weather the early storm, but they're continuing to have growing pains and working things out. And ultimately, I think the future will be bright. for them.
Well, with Bloomsburg, you have our U.S. Senator now, his father, Chancellor McCormick,
Yeah.
Oh.
and Bloomsburg president.
He was
in the past,
president and a faculty member.
Right, yeah, and I remember working with him, and a wonderful chancellor.
Yeah, so we know that the senator understands the
Yeah.
importance of public higher education, and we're counting on him. Yeah, so we are counting on him as things are going on, and the federal
Should be a
government
lot of
to be
internships.
supportive,
For our system.
but
students.
also just generally to be supportive of public higher
course.
education
Yeah.
and the need for public higher education, because without universities like ours, and not just in Pennsylvania, but across the country, the middle class is going to suffer if they're not there.
In our last few seconds here, it sounds like you have a lot on your plate. Are we missing anything? What else are you up to?
Well, we are constantly trying to innovate and do whatever we can and encourage our students. We've also affiliated with the AFT, their higher ed division. So that's providing opportunities to pay more attention on the national level and to have some influence there as well. And, we're going to try and really push for the money. As you know,
Yeah.
nothing really serious is going to happen until June, probably, and unless there's some clarity from Washington, it may even go beyond
And you
that.
also
Yeah.
get the stability of the professors.
Yeah.
Yeah.
With your organization, doing a
Right.
great job for them.
Right.
That the students aren't, having somebody just, they don't even know if they taught before. Yeah.
Our faculty does a great job, and our coaches do a great job too.
Well, we are so grateful to have you here today to keep us informed on what's going on in higher education, and we look forward to having you back. when Charlie's here, I hear you miss him, so we'll have him back soon.
Well, he's part of the family. Charlie's part of the family.
I do miss him.
Yes, we all do.
A former Millersville colleague. I didn't teach at
Absolutely.
Millersville, but
Yeah.
I knew Charlie for a long time.
Well, we thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
We'll be right back with the next segment of Behind the Headlines.
Behind the Headlines is brought to you as a public service by the Pennsylvania State Association of Township Supervisors, the largest, most influential municipal association in the Commonwealth. Since 1921, PSATS has been preserving and strengthening township government and securing greater visibility and involvement for townships in the state and federal political arenas. Covering 95% of Pennsylvania's land mass, townships represent 5.5 million residents, more than any other type of political subdivision in Pennsylvania. Additional underwriting provided by the Edward H. and Jeannie Arnold Foundation, and by the Pennsylvania Manufacturers Association. Business in Pennsylvania is our business. Behind the Headlines is also supported as a public service by the Pennsylvania Highway Information Association, the go-to source to learn about transportation projects and issues. Visit pahighwayinfo.org.
Hi, welcome back to the second segment of Behind the Headlines. On this segment, Jerry and I are very excited to have with us Charles McElwee. Thanks for being here.
Hey, it's always great to be here.
I love introducing you because it always takes forever. You are the founding editor of ReadClear, Pennsylvania. Also, you are a contributing writer for ReadClear Politics, the City Journal, Politico, Philadelphia Inquirer, Pittsburgh Post-Gazette, and that's just to name the top tier.
I didn't supply that CV, but thank you for the intro. Yeah.
Well, we're really excited to have you here. We love your political analysis, so I know we're going to run out of time, so let's get right to it.
Sure.
One of the things I've been reading about, it's kind of fascinating right now, is the Democratic edge in Pennsylvania is being chipped away by the Republicans. Can you tell us a little bit about that and what you're seeing and what the trends are?
Yes, it's a remarkable shift because in 2008, Democrats had a 1 million voter registration advantage by the time of Obama's victory here in the state in that election. Fast forward right now, it's under 100,000 when it comes to the Democrats' advantage in voter registration numbers. So all indications are there's an absolute scenario that by November, Republicans could have a voter registration majority, something this state has not seen. I cannot think of that. I mean, I guess
ever.
No, but years
way
ago,
back.
but a long time ago. Typically, I know that, but today it slips my mind. But in modern history, it is a phenomenon, and that's driven apart, of course, by this realignment we keep talking about, helped in part by the unforeseen, the DMV move that was supported by Governor Shapiro with people who change their voter registration or register to vote at the DMV.
Yeah.
And wherever you are in Pennsylvania, whether that's Bucks County, Luzerne, Westmoreland, those ancestral Democrats are either registering Republican for the first time or flipping R. And then you have a growing and diverse coalition within the GOP that is trending red as well.
But they're also embracing, let me just finish one more thing. They're also, Republicans are embracing mail-in ballots more too, isn't that correct?
Right, so we have a recent piece at ReadClear, Pennsylvania by Athan Koutsarumbas who examines this trend that Republicans, in fact, they got over that voter behavioral crisis. So it's almost like the party itself needs to engage in cognitive behavioral therapy with their own voters to actually use mail-in ballots. And as it stands, it is working better than it did in 2020.
Okay, sorry.
And with a promise to have them all be written ballots, that are saved to be able to check, in the future is still what Republicans are still looking for.
Right.
Along with that. But then also it changes, which you could see in the Lancaster special Senate race, that we lost, was the fact that the people who are moving in from New York, New Jersey, and wherever, is a different type of Democrat. So okay, so, things are changing, like you're saying, but there's a different type of Democrat that's moving into the suburbs of Philadelphia. With Delaware, Montgomery, Chester. Now it's Lancaster, York. Even Lidditz, in Lancaster, and the Paul Meyer, Campbelltown, area, changing.
Right, South Central Pennsylvania itself is getting purple and more transient, and therefore more competitive for the Democratic Party. And with that special election, this state Senate race in Lancaster County, I mean, that district itself is interesting. I mean, so many factors were in play there when it comes to the autopsy report, but I mean,
you can't have a special. I mean,
right.
You should never resign, because you
So
can't take a special at that
went,
time because they're not used to specials like that.
Right, and that district, areas of effort of Warwick Township, Lidditz, increasingly transient, but then the new voter base, Latino voters, for example, who live in Columbia, were not necessarily engaged to vote. If I'm correct, that was a 200 voter difference. What if those voters have been engaged to show up in the special election? There may be a Republican in office right now.
So what do we have as some of the biggest races coming up across the state? What are you seeing? What are you hearing?
Well, I mean, the talk right now already, just as we're getting over last year and the fatigue that the all-consuming election cycle that defined the 2024 presidential race, we're already talking about the governor's race.
Yeah.
For Governor Shapiro facing his second term in 26, and some of the names floating, of course, Stacey Garrity, the Pennsylvania State Treasurer, who handily won re-election in November, but then also Dan Muser from a congressional district that is reliably red. Itself a district that is interesting in the sense of it's culturally fractious within this district, in spite of being really a one-party type district. But his name is being floated as well.
Are you going to make any predictions?
I won't make any predictions. I mean, I'm sure other names will come up. The challenge of the Republican Party has that the peculiar dynamics of the state that we talked about, the voter registration numbers, they're shifting in Republicans' favor, but nevertheless, this is still a competitive state, and Republicans will have to really position themselves on understanding what the concerns are in Pennsylvania going into next year. I just think of a few examples. The pending proliferation of data centers and how they could very well transform regions of the state. And if they're tied to nuclear power with, for example, Microsoft's acquisition of the former TMI, or data centers proposed for northeastern Pennsylvania, what are the economic development costs, the burdens on any given community, and the overall benefits for these communities that will see an impact where they live, just as the warehousing logistics sector had an impact where they live. And that sector, meanwhile, is impacted by the tariff situation. So there are a lot of, I guess, the Rumsfeld line, unknown unknowns.
Yeah.
But we've come a far way from 99 when Tom Ridge prided himself in putting the website on the license plate, the first of its kind in the nation. And how will we be?
We have come a long way.
Right. So where either party, policymakers, how do they prepare Pennsylvanians for the tech acceleration ahead and how it will impact sectors here directly, whether it's truck drivers or people who work in manufacturing.
Wow.
Right. And then we have the DA races and other county races.
Mayoral.
Mayor races coming up.
Exactly. So in Philadelphia, we have the district attorney's race, Larry Krasner, bucking the trend of recent cycles where there has been a referendum on progressive district attorneys in major cities, with Gascon and Los Angeles being the most recent example. But all indications are that this is an easy re-election for Krasner. He's nationalizing his campaign, making it about Trump rather than about local issues, and it's resonating with a voter base that is quite averse to Trump. Patrick Dugan, his Democratic opponent, from the Northeast, which is at this point a Republican bastion within the city, but never, and has the backing of labor unions like the building trades, but still faces an uphill challenge and will likely not see victory. Go west on the Turnpike, yes, Pittsburgh, you have a different story. An imperiled progressive mayor in his first term who may likely lose to to a challenger whose father was a former mayor, Corey O'Connor, who is positioning himself as a centrist Democrat who wants to tackle the city's issues at that time. And the city itself is dealing with wide-ranging challenges, from the state of downtown, its high office vacancy rate, revitalization efforts to get it well-positioned for the NFL draft that will come there next April, and also the fact that it's had crime issues in recent years, and then population loss and its own economic discontent, again, tied to the present dynamics in the economy. So Gainey it's been a dysfunctional mayoral term, and it looks like he would be punished accordingly based on his tenure.
Wow. So tell me what you think are the biggest issues that voters are going to have on their minds in the next, well, we've got, primaries, we've got generals, we've got primaries. What do you think are going to continue to be some of the biggest issues?
The issues that were at the center 6 months ago, the economy.
Yeah.
But there are different dynamics now. So we left that election talking about how inflation and financial discontent were top concerns. So factor those in, plus the fact that there are companies out there either taking advantage of the uncertainty of the tariff situation or responding directly to it. It remains to be seen, but Mack Trucks, for example, just announced hundreds of layoffs. Meanwhile, Spark Therapeutics, which is considered the pride and joy in recent years in Philadelphia's economy. If you walk out 30th Street Station, everywhere Spark Therapeutics. Gene Therapeutics Company, they just laid off half of their staff. Ooh. And that's tied to the potential or proposed cut in federal funding via grants to the life sciences industry. And that is Philadelphia University City has become the center for cell and gene therapeutics. So whether it's those white-collar professional jobs where we're seeing layoffs or the blue-collar jobs in Lehigh Valley, if this continues, it may not bode well for the incumbent party at the White House, which is the Republican Party. But when we talk about Pennsylvania, we don't fully fathom how much things are about to change in the state, whether it's the economics, its demography. The state as we know it, even 10 years ago, will be unrecognizable by, let's say, the 2028 presidential election. That during these next 4 years, we're going to see, as I mentioned before, the data center proliferation, energy transformation, supply chain disruptions, either tied to these reshoring efforts or the result of the tariffs, an increasingly transient population of various parts of the state. City cores are more residential rather than commercial. That will certainly be the case of Pittsburgh. Philadelphia itself is experiencing growth. And then what will be the future? I mean, and this I'm curious, what's the future of downtown Harrisburg? The conditions here are appalling, and we know why. State workers are remote. What is the governor's response to that? Something has to happen in downtown Harrisburg. Anybody who walks here knows how bad it is, and it's a tragedy when you consider that just 2 decades ago, this was a vibrant downtown.
And on that upbeat note, we have to say goodbye.
That was too Irish of me.
Yes. But that's
yeah.
Okay. It's accurate, and so it just means we need to have you back so we can dig deeper into the situation in Harrisburg, which you're right, is important and difficult right now. So we thank you very much for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll see you next time on Behind the Headlines.